Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now from our Abuja studio is Senator Ita Enang, Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters. Welcome to the morning show, Senator.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, my dear.
Yeah, well, let me start with what is going on in Akwa Ibom State, particularly with regard to the conflict in the House of Assembly. You were a member of that same House of Assembly many years back, 1999 to 2003, if I'm correct. What exactly is going on? How do you feel, looking back as someone who had been a member of that same house, seeing that house turned into a battlefield where, even thugs are now accommodated?
I was a member of that house 1992 to 1993, and I'm a trustee of that house in 1992. From 1999 to 2011, I was a member of the House of Representatives, and after that, a senator of the Federal Republic from 1911 to 15. Now, I am not happy the way the House has been, but I know that it is the character of the legislature to have disputations among themselves. When the disputations now has external funders and external intervening factors, I think it becomes not well. So I think I'm not happy. I know I'm not happy the way it is, and my desire and effort is to work towards seeing the House come back together as one.
What exactly is your reading of the conflict? On one side, we have some 5 lawmakers saying that they want to impeach another, speaker. 5 lawmakers having their own speaker, and then, combat between 2 sides, and accusations between the governor and Senator Godswill Akpabio, trading of blames and all of that. What do you think is the cause of all of this? Who is responsible? Is it Akpabio or Udom Emmanuel?
I get not very happy when things like this are attributable to Senator Akpabio, because it is a matter of disputations between the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress. And it is not Akpabio. If anybody, it is myself and Nsima, who is our Kansima Ikere, the gubernatorial candidate, Obong Tiebet, the other leaders of the party. It is not Akpabio. Akpabio has just joined us. We've been in this party, in this matter, from 2014, and it doesn't have anything to do with him. Therefore, it is a disputation between those who are members of those who defected from PDP to APC, and those who are still in PDP, who believes that having defected to APC, they should lose their seats. Again, the PDP camp, led by the Anofio Gluck, the speaker, have not done well, because they ought not to have declared the seats of these 5 members who defected vacant. They should have learned from the way David Mark managed defection politics in the 7th Assembly, the way that Tambuwal also managed it, although he himself also defected when he managed it, the way Senator Bukola Saraki is managing the defection politics in the Senate, and the way that Dogara, the Right Honorable Speaker Dogara, is managing it. You allow the members maintain their seats. That's on the part of the PDP team. Now, on the part of the APC members now, they have not also done well, because they ought not to have taken any step. There is nobody in my local parlance. They say that there is nobody that they will pour cold water on his head, and he will not just show sign of frigid, So both of them ought to react, but now it is a resolution, and the resolution ought to be that the members, the 5 members, be allowed to sit, and the Onofioglu group and the Speaker Onofioglu be allowed to preside, because the 5 members cannot definitely form a quorum to do anything. I say this, 1, as a trustee of the House. 2, I have been one of the most experienced legislators in Nigeria. I'm a member of the All Progressives Congress. I am I'm the leader, a leader of the party in Akwa Ibom State, but I will not want a wrong thing to be done, because if a wrong thing is done, you are capable of attracting sympathy, like the governor is seeking to attract sympathy, whipping the ethnic sympathy, and that is not what is correct, because that is not the position.
Well, Senator Enang, you've been in the, well, first, will it be correct to say that you sound a bit as if you are taking sides in this conflict? Because it will appear as if those 5 lawmakers who defected to the APC, that there was actually a court order barring them from taking their seats and remaining on suspension. That's one. The second part is, I mean, the House of Reps, if you remember, when now Governor Tambuwa was the Speaker of that House, there was this point, this issue about people who defect losing their seats. Should it not just be automatic that when you defect, you lose your seat?
Ordinarily, when you defect, you ought to lose your seat, as it were. But in the practice, and if you remember my submissions on the floor of the Senate, when Saraki and others, the first set of defectors, did, I made a submission bringing the judgment, a fresh judgment of the Federal High Court then, and cited, it was just about 3 days then, and those judgments cited the decision of the court in the Atiku Abubakar case, and the decisions and the dicta in the case of Amechi and other ones, and came to the conclusion that a member and a person does not own a seat, that he is elected, he sits on the seat of the party, and if you leave the party, you ought to leave the seat. But in practice, you will observe, you will know that most persons have left their parties and their seats still on their seats. Now, if you say I'm taking sides, if I were taking sides, I would not say that the 5 members of the APC cannot effectively, legislatively take any legal action. Yes, if I were. But I speak as a trustee of the legislature. I speak as somebody whom I believe that whatever comes out of my mouth, a person should write exam and pass. A child, a student, should use that and write exam and pass. And I speak from my conscience because I'm a trustee of the legislature in Nigeria. Now, I'm believing that if you study the history of Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, some months ago, or last year, a member from Orofon Oruko defected from the APC to the PDP. His seat was not declared vacant. Now, it is when these persons defected to, when other PDP members defected to APC, that the Speaker declared their seat or sought to declare their seat vacant. And from what is happening, we have about 11 members who were willing and are still willing to defect to the APC, because we're now 65% in control of, 65-70% in control of Akwa Ibom State. But the governor is instigating this to attract sympathy and to prevent or seek to scare the other 6 members from joining these other 5 members, so that we now have 11 out of 12, out of 26 members of the House. Therefore, we will not be cowed, but like on my part, what I have done, and I have asked, some other members have joined me, is to seek a resolution and a truce. I have spoken to both sides, and we want to go into the matter and resolve it for them so that they can still sit as one house. Because we do not want a situation that when the APC defeats the PDP in the presidential, I would definitely will, and defeats the PDP in the gubernatorial and other elections, they will now say that there was some other factors, or they seek to have, or that it was because there was a crisis in the State Assembly. We don't want them to have that sympathy. And we don't want them, because what is happening now is that they seem to want to play the ethnic card. And they keep mentioning the name of somebody that is not involved in this matter.
No,
if persons are involved, it is
Senator,
myself,
hold on.
Bana Umana, and Nsima Ekere, and Don Itiebe, and other leaders of the party. But I'm seeking and we're working on a resolution.
Well, incidentally, the governor, Ibom Emmanuel, has not mentioned any other person, but he pointedly mentioned Senator Godswill Akpabio. And you will recall that traditionally, Akwa Ibom has been a PDP state. But all of this crisis began shortly after Senator Godswill Akpabio defected to the All Progressives Congress. Will you say that he's still innocent? Because if he had not defected, if he were still on very good terms with the governor, whom he probably, clearly anointed in 2015, do you think there will be this kind of crisis? Because all the members fighting each other now used to belong to the same family. But Akpabio's exit, will seem to have triggered this conflict.
I think His Excellency, my brother, Governor Ibom Emmanuel, is used to wailing. Before Akpabio joined us, he was shouting at me, shouting at Nsima Ekere. He never really shouted, and sometimes at Don Etiebe. It was three of us that he was. And he had good relations, as it were, with Akpabio. And he is believing that is Akpabio. And, of course, he wants a situation where Akpabio could be demonized so that he wants a situation where Akpabio could be demonized, because I think they have, and they don't know the secrets about each other, and think they're afraid of each other. So I think that is why he's shouting only on one person. And I think that is personal to them. But the issue on ground is that it is myself, Obong Nsima Ekere, the candidate of our party, and other leaders of the party. And Akpabio is not involved. The senator is not involved. And of course, you remember that at the beginning, we had only one member of the House. At the beginning, it was only me before, when he won election. Others joined us, and me and Umana, others joined us, and we became a bigger, stronger team. At that time, he was simply just mentioning names. He wasn't shouting.
Senator Enang.
But now we're a stronger team, we're a bigger family, and we are an issue.
Great. Senator Enang, there are a few things that are important to a democracy, such as the independence of institutions from political interference. But what we have seen in Akwa Ibom State in recent times, especially the last sitting, is the role of the police in all of this, which the governor himself has fingered. We had a multitude of police officers who were said to escort 5 members to attempt to impeach the speaker and the governor of the state. What do you have to say to this?
First, there was no attempt to impeach the governor. There has been no such things. It is manufactured for the purpose of, like I say, attracting attention and sympathy. Again, I do not see, and there were no police escorting the members. Each of these members have their own security team, the police. And of course, when the governor went there, he also went there with the police that are protecting him, close to a little over 100. Protecting him and all his aides, him alone, and there were also other policemen. Remember, when there was this effort first at breach of peace, the police took over the place. But when the distinguished senators and the Senate resolved that the police should withdraw from the premises, the police withdrew. And I believe that if the police were not ordered to withdraw, and if they did not withdraw, I think there would have been a balance in maintenance of peace and order. When there was complete vacation, as ordered by the Senate, I think the police had to withdraw. Senator, and it was this withdrawal that gave account of this. And I want to say that the police are impartial in this matter and are not involved. They are only present or when called in to maintain law and order, and it is not on the side of any person. And of course, this is the first time the governor is calling for the removal of the commissioner of police. All the other time that it was good and used by him, and everything were well on his own side, he thought so, he didn't ask for the commissioner of police to be removed.
Senator, well, it's interesting to see you defending the police. But are you aware that yesterday, women in Akwa Ibom took to the streets demanding the removal of the Akwa Ibom State Commissioner of Police, Musa Kimo? The Senate also yesterday asked the Senate Committee on Police Affairs to investigate the role of the police in Akwa Ibom State. Do you think those women just wanted to go onto the streets to entertain people? Or do you think the Senate has acted in error to ask for an investigation?
The governor and the government of Akwa Ibom State has so much money, and they can remobilize anybody at any time to perform any of what they want. Those were PDP women, and I know that sometimes when you even have issues, the governor and government of Akwa Ibom State and the People's Democratic Party, when it is a question that multi-parties are needed, they will print T-shirts and print clothes in the name of APC for PDP women to protest. He has all the money. He receives between 18 and 25 billion every 30 days. So while other states receive 2-3 billion every 30 days, so he can afford to call anybody for any purpose, and that is misuse of the money. Now, yes, they protested, but if we were to react in the way that he is reacting, I think we want to mobilize women to come and protest also, we would have 3-4 times the number of women he has brought out. Well, the number of women he has brought out. We will have 3-4 times the number of women. But we are saying, look, let us keep the peace, because all he's trying to do is to create a show so as to attract public sympathy and tilt public opinion in his favor, because he's lost favor as governor of Akwa Ibom State. And his party has lost grounds, great grounds in Akwa Ibom State, and the people want to vote and are now voting and rooting for the APC.
Well, but is this all about money, this war of attrition? Is it about getting access to the treasury of Akwa Ibom? And if you say it's about money, is the Senate also sponsored to set up, to ask its Committee on Police Affairs to investigate within 48 hours the role of the police in the crisis in Akwa Ibom?
You remember that last week, or week before last, when the issue was raised on the floor of the Senate, the matter was referred to the Committee on Police Affairs, and they were to report within 48 hours. Now, the team, headed by distinguished Senator Kaura, interfered with the members. And so this is not the first time. The Senate is simply saying, bring a report on the assignment that we gave you and bring it within the time we have now stated. Now, the Senate is right, because when I sat on the floor of the Senate, we had this on the floor of the House of Representatives. We had this situation in Plateau State. On the floor of the Senate, we had this situation and in the House of Representatives, we had this situation in Ekiti. On the floor of the Senate, we had this situation in Rivers State and in other states. And wherever you have, and of course, some months ago, we had this kind of situation in Benue State. And the Senate has always taken a position of trying to say, look, no, there should be no external interference. There should be no security interference. But all that should happen is maintain peace, prevent loss of lives and damage to property. And that is what the Senate is doing here, because the Senate is a responsible, respectable institution and is a model of what the legislature should be. And where there appears to be any threat to the legislature anywhere in Nigeria, the Senate and the House of Representatives, indeed the National Assembly, stands up as a trustee to defend and make sure that the legislature is not violated. And the chambers on the floor of the legislature, the hallowed, is not violated.
Senator Enang, yours is just one vote, but you have said repeatedly on this show in the course of 30 minutes or so that the APC would win Akwa Ibom State. I wonder what gives you such confidence. The state has, time immemorial, been a PDP state and never considered a swing state. So what gives you this confidence that the APC is going to win Akwa Ibom State?
Send your intelligence. I know you do intelligence. I know you do, you conduct polls. I respect Arise and their team. Come and look at what is happening. Come and hear the man and the woman on the street. Come and hear the rating of the governor in terms, and the state government, in terms of usage of the federal revenue that has come into the state. Come and look. Last week, the Akwa Ibom State Airport was named after Victor Otta, who conceived and went far. The international airport, the stadium, is named after Godswill Akpabio because he conceived and completed it. Come and look at, and the present government is still receiving what they were receiving in previous times, except under Atta, Governor Atta, as he then was. Now, when you come and look at that and see that these things, although despite the money that we bring, that the federal government sends, it is not doing anything with it. Nothing can be seen to be on ground. He says it's industrialization. He says he's building we've seen the syringe factory, but it is private owned. We've seen the meter factory, it is private owned. We've seen the fertilizer. I even went, because the money that they've used in making this fertilizer factory is supposed to is coming from the federal government. I even went to see it. Then the owner of the factory now called me and warned me that it is privately owned by him and not the state government. That is personally to me, and I had to apologize to the owner of the factory. He says there is a rice factory, a rice mill. We've not seen the rice mill. Come and look at it and see where the money of the people have gone. The federal government is doing the school feeding program. The federal government has sent in money to feed the children. For the past few months, the children have not been fed. The people who supplied this food are almost going on rampage. The children are crying. But this money is sent by the federal government, from the federal government to the state government. And the federal government believes, and they're right, that the money, schools are owned by and managed, primary schools, by the state government, and they cannot directly go to feed these children, the state government. But money, when it is given to Governor Udom Emmanuel, my brother and His Excellency, my governor, he doesn't get to do what he's supposed to do. And look, these are the things that men and women have run to take a shield and say, look, the All Progressives Congress will do better. And of course, they are satisfied knowing that President Buhari is of the APC, but he hasn't discriminated between the APC state and PDP state, and he shows a lot of love to them.
Let's move away.
It is only when it comes downstream and to Akwa Ibom that the money disappears.
All right, Senator, thank you for that. Let's move away from Akwa Ibom right now. It's just a few weeks to the general elections, and the president has said that he's committed to a transparent electoral process. But why has he not signed the Electoral Act bill up until now?
The Electoral Bill was forwarded to Mr. President about the 7th or 8th of this month, November. And when a bill is forwarded to Mr. President, the President will have to use its internal, what we call presidential standard operating procedure, which my brother, Reuben Abati, is very much aware. He sojourned and worked in that system. And the Constitution allows him a 30 days within which to do it. You remember the legislature used quite a what the legislature agreed, corrected it, but they made some more other some mistakes. The second time and the third time. The third time, the card reader was not inserted, and Mr. President, the third one was passed and sent to him. Mr. President sent reservations, and they corrected those reservations and sent only the correction, and said that in the words of some of them, that the executive ought to have merged and put in what they have done to correct it. So now they have passed a correct and properly set version, but the president still has to look carefully. But I believe that in the next very few days, the decision of Mr. President on this will be known. But let me assure you, and assure Nigerians, and assure the world, that President Muhammadu Buhari is committed to having free, fair, transparent, and internationally reputable election, because that is what brought him And he is not in any manner going to allow Nigeria to suffer or take any step that will prejudice the election in his favor.
Senator Enang, some Nigerians have expressed concern that the Buhari administration has suddenly become very generous a few months to the general elections next year. You have the president reducing the price for forms, for registration forms for NECO exams, for JAMB exams, and, you know, a populist move, if you wish. You have the president also approving a new salary adjustment scale for the police. Then you also have trader money being taken all over the country and money being given to people. Some people are saying, look, this is a vote-buying tactics, that this is a form, you know, of vote buying, and that all of this is tied to the elections. Otherwise, why now? What's your take?
Well, my take on this is that when we came in, we met oil price at $29 per barrel. It went up to $39 per barrel. We had a benchmark of $34 per barrel. And gradually, at that time, we were looking for money from everywhere to run the government. As it gradually went on, and when oil price went to $39, $40 per barrel, the president still instituted the social investment program and voted 500 billion naira for it to be undertaken. Therefore, this is still a continuation of it, and I think it was not popularized at then. Much of what we were doing at that time was not made known to the public or was not widely media circulated. Therefore, it wasn't known. Now, on the JAMB and NECO fees, you know, at the time we came in, JAMB and NECO were always reporting losses. But under the present administration, where you have financial prudence, where you have treasury single account, you have a situation where you have complete remittance of the monies that comes into the treasury. And when you have complete remittance of monies into the treasury, then you now know that you have money that you can run the government. And of course, you don't need to allow your children and the parents to suffer. So it is not a vote-buying tactic. It is just being responsive as a government and giving something back to the people. Now, you remember that when we started the social investment program, the school feeding program, it started with the number of schools and the number of states that our money could afford at that time, and where the structures were. Later, we now expanded it to include other states as we had money. Therefore, now, JAMB, NECO generate so much money, and you know they generate this money and it goes under the Fiscal Responsibility Act into the treasury. And since we have money from there, we should not, and we know what reasonably would fund the process. Mr. President Buhari says, look, this is not a money-making venture. It is a future-creating an institution that parents should enjoy. If it were possible, and it is getting possible, we would declare free education in all. But let us reduce the JAMB fees so that we have a number of children who would otherwise not have to go into school. So it's not a vote-buying tactic. It is simply being responsive. Now, you know, on the police salary scale, if you know the amount of money, the police is and were the list of the attended security agencies. The civil defense earns more than the police. I apologize, I'm a public officer, I'm not supposed to go to this depth, but I want to be honest about it. I've been in the National Assembly for 16 straight years, and I know what it took, why we created the civil defense. I know why other institutions were created, you know, because it was a kind of waning confidence in the police. You remember that the SSS was part of the police. The traffic institution was part of the police. They earn more than the police. And the soldiers, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and other paramilitary, the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, and the Defense Intelligence, all of them earn more than the police. And gradually, confidence of the policemen were waning. When you see a policeman and you see an officer of the civil defense, then you see an officer of the SSS, then you see a soldier, you see a naval officer, you will pity the policeman. And President Buhari says, look, I cannot watch this situation, that I have to improve the welfare of the police. That is what President Buhari has done, to bring them and their psyche and their morale at par with other security agencies.
Well, we don't have much time. I know you always defend this government. We have just about, less than 60 seconds. Ask you a question. Do you feel embarrassed that this government has not really been able to deliver on its promises with regard to security? Now we hear soldiers being killed, military bases being sacked by Boko Haram. As you speak, the president is likely to be on his way to N'Djamena to attend a meeting of heads of state to discuss the multinational joint task force. Do you feel embarrassed that this is the situation in which we have found ourselves?
Security is dynamic, and Mr. President, as Commander-in-Chief, a general, as it were, is doing his utmost and doing much. I'm sure you'll feel that there is a lot of improvement and a lot of gaining of grounds. You'll see that most of the IDP camps have closed, the people have returned, and of course, we've seen that the other people have regrouped, giving more support from other agencies. Therefore, we are doing the utmost. And Mr. President, whenever an incident is suspected, he takes command, and he has commanded this well.
Thank you very much.
We are assuring Nigerians that it is getting better, and we are doing best and most to protect the security of all Nigerians and defend the integrity and one corporate existence of Nigeria as a nation.
Thank you, Senator Enang. Thank you very much for coming to the morning show.
And we will show compassion to the families and compassion to the Nigerian security institutions.
Thank you very much, Senator Enang, for coming to the morning show.
Thank you, Senator. It's time now for a short break.